Hi, Yasmin. Nice to see that you've written more essays. Let's take a look at this flow chart. Okay. I see that you're calling it the first picture and the second picture. I want you to simplify this whole thing. It's really just one basic flow chart. So let's just call it that and simplify this first paragraph here. The flowchart presents the process involved in the preparation of 4 types of teas, as well as how scented tea is made. Okay, that's really the clearest, simplest way to say this. And you're aiming for clarity here. Okay, clarity is key. So expressing this flowchart in that way makes it nice and clear. Overall, the process illustrates that after cleaning and storing, the tea leaves VES go through distinct procedures in order to be presented as a unique color of tea. Moreover, addition of flavors is a separate process. Okay. There were a lot of things you could have said here. One of the things that I liked best here is that clearly white tea is the simplest process, whereas oolong tea is the most complex. Okay? Or you could have said that while the teas have some similarities between them and some differences, but they share, well, yeah, you could have just said that there are some differences in the procedures, but they share some procedures as well. Okay? Those were a couple of ways you could have done this. So I just feel like this might be a little too detailed to be an overview because you're actually going into the details of what those processes are and what those steps are. So that really belongs more in your detailed paragraphs and less so in your overview. Okay? Yeah, so this doesn't really feel like an overview. I think something along the lines of what I just suggested is more appropriate for an overview. Let's move on. To begin with, white tea preparation is only 2 steps after storing. Let's just double check. No, it doesn't say storing. It says sorting and cleaning. Be careful. You don't want to have inaccurate information here. Okay, so to begin with, white tea preparation is only 2 steps after sorting, making it the shortest process. You want to be careful because this which is the shortest process sounds like storing is the shortest process. That's not what you mean. You mean that the preparation of white tea is the shortest. So you want to say here, making it the shortest process. The tea leaves are steamed and then dried, and the white tea becomes ready to be served. In contrast, oolong tea making involves the highest number of steps among all the colors of tea. For this, leaves, VES, go through withering first, followed by shaking or rolling in a basket to bruise the leaves. Once the leaves are bruised, they go through short fermentation, and eventually leaves are fried prior to drying. For green tea and black tea making, there are, or you could have gotten rid of the 4 and just said green tea and black tea making has 3 steps. That would have been okay. So then it's the 4 that's a problem. For green tea leaves, no, I think it's the 4. Get rid of it. Green tea leaves, VES, are pan-fried, ED, or steamed, and then rolled or cut into shaping before drying. Whereas is the wrong word here. Instead, you want however. However, to make black tea, the leaves are rolled or cut into shapes, then set to full fermentation. After full fermentation, leaves are fried to dry until ready to be served. Lastly, a flavor of choice, fruit or flower, is then added to the black, green, or oolong tea leaves, and tea leaves are cooled. For what? You mean for scented tea. You didn't say that, so that's really, really unclear. Here, what you mean is, lastly, in order to produce scented tea, etc., 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 and then it would have been okay. So the first problem that I could see here is, number 1, it was the fact that you didn't really have a clear overview. The overview should have stated just some main things, like the shortest tea process versus the longest tea process, the fact that all the types of tea can, except for white tea, can make scented tea. So those are some possible overviews you could have said here. The other thing that I really want you to be careful with is the fact that you had some inaccuracies, like that thing about storing rather than sorting. That was a little problematic, and then this too was a little inaccurate. So these inaccuracies are going to cost you some points, but probably the biggest problem is with the overview, okay? What you wrote just doesn't really differentiate it from detail, so you have to be careful, okay? I hope that makes sense. Other than that, you covered everything. Also, you kept spelling leaves wrong, so that will probably take away from your grammar score. So be aware of that, okay? Let's take a look at this task 2. Benefits and the drawbacks of moving to regional locations. Let's see what you said. Some recent policy changes are in the process of implementation by the big city local governments the world over. That is, the large cities are compelling the businesses to move to regional locations. All right, this that is a little weird. Maybe you needed a comma after that is. There are some advantages and disadvantages of this latest drive of big city governments. This essay will shed light on the reasons, advantages, and disadvantages of the issue in question. Okay. I want to remind you what they ask you for specifically. They want to know the benefits and the drawbacks. So it's not really appropriate to be talking about the reasons behind it. Obviously, you're going to get into some of that when you talk about some of that. Be careful, because this isn't a what are the reasons and what are the solutions, or what are the reasons and is this good or bad, but they just want to know what are the benefits, what are the drawbacks. So I think what would have been a little more beneficial here is if you had said maybe that there are some advantages and disadvantages to this trend, okay? And then, yeah, so this felt a little superfluous because you already said there are some advantages and disadvantages of this latest drive of big city governments, which will be discussed in this essay. That would have been more than enough, really, okay? Because this then feels a little redundant. You said advantages, disadvantages. Here you said it again. Not necessary. The most conspicuous reason, the reason for what? This is a new paragraph now, so you have to make it clear what exactly you're talking about. So just say the most conspicuous reason for companies to move to regional locations is the mammoth growth of big cities. Most conspicuous reason. Okay, is that the mammoth growth of big cities has depleted the resources of the cities and rendered the traffic, accommodation, and green spaces unmanageable. Forgive me. This recent initiative of big cities to ask companies to go to not regions, that doesn't make sense, to I don't know, rural locations perhaps, has clear advantages. For example, work opportunities will be redirected to these regions, and in turn, the population expansion of the big cities would be controlled because people will find jobs in their own towns. People finding jobs in their own towns, okay. All right, people finding jobs in their own town will help overall emotional well-being of the society. Why? When children leave their parents to work in a big city, this phenomenon negatively affects the whole social structure. Young children growing up without grandparents and the adults who move to pursue work are unable to meet their parents. Hopefully this policy will address these issues. Okay, here's what I want to talk about. There were a lot of areas here where you could have used some nice cohesive devices, but you didn't. And so you just kept repeating a lot of the same language. First of all, I feel like I have seen the expression big cities too many times. Take a look at this. Big city, big city, big city, big city, big city, big city. I don't know how many times it is. I didn't count. What is that, 6? Maybe it's 7. I'm not sure. It's too many though, okay? In 2 paragraphs, use the same expression so many times is it's showing a lack of flexibility with your vocabulary, and it's not going to give you a higher level vocabulary score, okay? In general, I tell most students who are on the course that there are certain words I don't want to see in an IELTS essay. Those words are big, small, good, and bad. Okay, there's so many other words in the English language that you can use to convey this and to convey these ideas in so much more detail. So you could have used things like large urban centers, metropolises. There were lots of different words. Okay. What else? Cities with large populations. I mean, there were so many other synonyms you could have used. So please try to avoid, number one, using words like big, but number two, repeating the same language over and over again. Now, there was another place where you used something, here we go, I think it was this. People will find jobs in their own town. People finding jobs in their own town. So this was a great opportunity for you to use a cohesive device. And I'll see if I can think of a couple to show you by way of example how you could do this. And it would make your writing flow a lot better. It would make it sound more grammatically sophisticated and just link together your ideas in a much more fluid, sophisticated way. So one example of a cohesive device that would work here is just a very simple pronoun. The pronoun that I have in mind for this instance is this. Take a look. For example, work opportunities will be redirected to regional locations, and in turn, population expansion of the large cities would be controlled because people will find jobs in their own towns. This will help the overall well-being of the society. Okay, so it just flows so much better like that, and you're linking this sentence with the previous sentence without repeating the same exact language. Okay? Let's see. And I don't understand what you mean when children leave their parents. I mean, I'm assuming here you're talking about adults. So I think what a better way to express this would have been is when young people leave their hometowns to work in a big city, etc., etc., etc. Okay? Not really when children, because they're not children when they're leaving. They're grown-ups who are looking for jobs. All right. Besides the above mentioned merits, no. Get rid of this, besides the above mentioned merits, and say, nonetheless, there are many demerits of this move, which can be foreseen. I don't know about this can be foreseen, though. First of all, comma, moving a business will cost a lot of money to the companies and may be for a short period, and maybe, one word, for a short period. There's something awkward grammatically here. I can't really fix it. I don't know what is going on. Will cost a lot of money to the companies, and for a short period, this may be, I don't like the word abysmal here. It's a great word, but not here. Detrimental to the economy. If we dissect why there are so many companies situated in big cities, the reasons are obvious. That is, the geographical location. Most big cities are situated on the intersection of many connecting roads from multiple directions. This uniqueness of the big cities has helped to find a workforce from multiple areas of a province or a country. Moving the countries to regions will lead to disaster, will lead to a loss of skilled workforce. The biggest challenge that the cities can face is loss of taxes from those companies that contributes a large amount of money to run the municipalities. Okay, so I didn't really care for this section here. I think it didn't belong. It felt off topic. I know you had said in your introduction that you were going to discuss the reasons, but it felt really irrelevant, like it just didn't belong in this paragraph. Okay? So to reiterate, this move of big cities, again, this move of big cities, that doesn't make sense. So this move of companies from large urban centers has advantages such as limiting the population growth and improving the job opportunities in regions. Undoubtedly, you need a full stop here. Full stop. Undoubtedly, however, there are many disadvantages like expenses and loss of workforce for business and loss of taxes for the cities themselves. Such moves always bring challenges, however, in the long run. However, in the long run, it will be good for the society. Okay, that was fine. So I think, Yasmin, that you have a lot of food for thought here. We spent quite a bit of time on both these essays, really going over what some of the weaknesses and some of the strengths are. You did definitely develop your paragraphs really considerably, so all of that's good. You went into considerable detail. Just be careful because, like I said, some of this, like this section here, was not really appropriate to the development of this argument. So go ahead now and correct these, and I think you have another set before your exam, so go ahead, get that started so we can see it, and I'm looking forward to it. Okay, good luck.